This is Twit.
In 2010, so 4 years ago, Oracle sues Google over 37 specific Java APIs which were used in Android.
Not the code.
Right.
The
Not
name
the
of the function. The name of the variables. Not the code, the name.
Right. And we waited 2 years for, we remember talking about this. I mean, because this is like, wait a minute, you can't protect an API. I mean, Linux copied the Unix API and multiple people do languages. And so the assumption has always been that the language itself is, especially when it was expressly made public. I mean, no one would have used Java if Sun hadn't said it's, of course everyone can use it. This is, we've got one, other people have them, everybody, and we just want to make sure they're compatible. That would really be their only, issue. So we waited 2 years. And one of the most impressive judgments in the history of technology came down from a judge who was so determined to rule correctly, he learned Java.
Isn't that awesome? And wrote a range check. He said, yes. I did it over the weekend.
Yes. And when you read his ruling, he's using all of the terms correctly. Right. Instantiate and instance and prototype. I mean, he's using these terms that are, programmer terms, and, he's a judge.
Judge William Alsup. And
yes.
Pat on the back to Judge Alsup.
Yes. So at the time, 2 years ago, Wired summed it up nicely. They said, Oracle said the Java APIs were like a beautiful painting. Google said they were more like a file cabinet. And in the end, Judge William Alsup came closest to agreeing with Google, comparing an API to a library that organizes the Java programming language. In the much-anticipated 2012 ruling, which we waited for 2 years, in the epic legal battle between Google and Oracle, Alsup wrote, quote, each package is like a bookshelf in the library. Each class is like a book on the shelf. Each method is like a how-to-do-it chapter in a book. Go to the right shelf, select the right book, and open it to the chapter that covers the work you need. His ultimate point was that the organization of a library is not subject to copyright. Yes, he said, the books themselves are copyrightable. That would be the actual implementation of the code, but not the way the books are organized. In other words, Google did not infringe on Oracle's copyright. And by the way, this was both a patent and a copyright suit, and the patent got completely thrown out. There was just no chance that this stuff was, you couldn't patent the APIs. So they said, okay, well, then they're copyrighted. The bad news that shook the industry, those of us that were watching, I tweeted it and got a lot of responses because this is one of your head shakers, is Oracle appealed that decision. And it's worth mentioning that Alsup wrote this so carefully and so clearly, specifically to withstand appeal, because he knew there was a lot at stake. Everybody has rights to appeal, and he wanted his ruling and his investment in taking the time to understand this, to learn, to become a Java programmer, in order to judge this. Yeah. He wanted it to withstand appeal. So it didn't. In updating their article now, again in Wired, Wired wrote Oracle won a big legal victory over Google on Friday. That was last Friday, when a federal appeals overturned a ruling in their epic battle over the Java programming language. Larry Ellison and company are calling it a win for the entire software industry. Oh, my God. But others see it differently. Count me among them. They believe it could harm the industry in enormous ways. Some even think it could come back to bite Oracle. The dispute comes down to arcane code used in Google's Android operating system, and if the courts ultimately find in favor of Oracle, the decision could reverberate across the tech industry. The situation is complicated, writes Wired, but it can be summed up pretty simply. Oracle owns Java. Google cloned Java in building Android. Oracle sued, and now the courts are trying to decide when it's okay to clone someone else's software. Now we have to be careful.
Cloning, and that's the thing that bugs me.
Yes, I was going to say we have to be careful with this summary because this is not accurate. They didn't, they cloned the interface.
They cloned the way you call the name by which you call routines. That's all.
Right, like the definition of the language, not the plumbing, not the implementation. Yep. And
well, now it will be appealed again, of course, to the Supreme Court in all likelihood.
Yeah.
The good news is, while I have no high opinion of the Supreme Court's technical knowledge, they have been in recent decisions very pro-intellectual property. Actually, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing at all. Come to think of it.
Well,
we'll see.
With any luck, they will look at Alsop's decision and his logic,
right,
and they will say this holds, that the appellate court made a mistake.
Yeah, a huge mistake.
Oh, and Leo, do you know what would happen? It would be the end of life as we know it. I mean, I can't even. I mean, wow. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, Microsoft could say to Wine, nope, can't do that. That's not the end of the world. I guess AT&T, Bell Labs, that own the Unix trademarks, copyrights, could say to Linus, no more Linux. That would be pretty disastrous.
Yes. Yes. I mean, throughout, anybody who is using a standard interface could have the originator say. In fact, it would end up changing us to the point where anything that moving forward, any interface that someone wanted to promote would have to be expressly and explicitly released into the public domain before anybody else would consider coding to it. Because otherwise, you're locked in to their terms.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. That might not be a bad thing at all.
Remember that it was Microsoft's copying Turbo, Philippe at Borland, and driving, I'm sorry, it was Philippe copying Microsoft. Microsoft was selling languages for, hundreds, $400, $500, $600 when Philippe comes out with Turbo Pascal for $49, and just, absolutely, if you could have had, a blood pressure cuff on Bill Gates at that point, it would have shot off the scale.